Welcome to the Therapist on Fire podcast. I'm Dr. Emma Shapiro, and I'm here with Steven Stockhausen from PT Adventures, a travel therapy blog and website. I'm really excited in this episode to talk about his journey to debt freedom using traveling and how becoming financially independent has enabled him to pursue his entrepreneurial dreams. Thank you so much for being here, Steven.
Yeah, thanks a lot.
So you are a traveler, and I really want you to first just share your story of how you decided to become a traveler and how that all came about.
Yeah, so my wife and I are both PTs. We met in graduate school, and we had kind of separately always had this dream of eventually trying to travel. And so we'd actually started at they do like the job search, job fair thing. A lot of colleges do. So we had a bunch of recruiters come, and we kind of kept a few names, kind of in our back pocket for a while. Things change. We become a couple and all that stuff, and we move states, take great jobs, and worked as a perm, outpatient ortho for about 2.5 years, and we loved it. But our little town in Colorado is a resort town, and Colorado doesn't have the best reimbursement for insurance, and so the going phrase in our town literally was, in Durango, we pay you in scenery. And so, we're looking at that point, I think we were about to get married, and we were like almost, I think we were $240,000 in debt between the two of us when we got married. And, we're looking at this just like, how on earth are we going to, possibly make this work? And the houses there are just appalling. If you ever want to get on Zillow and just look at Durango house prices, it's shocking. I mean, for what you can get, it's appalling. So, we just realized this isn't going to really work long term. At least not, the quality of life that we want is not quite, there if we stay perm without making significantly more money or somehow getting rid of this debt. And, we had this like in the back of our minds that, hey, what about the adventure of traveling? We were kind of fed up with the grind of what we were doing. And so we decided to kind of bring out some of those names again and call them up. And sure enough, we started traveling. I think it was almost exactly 2.5 years after becoming a therapist. Not even a year after we got married, and we started traveling, and just hit the road, and it's been great ever since. So I think we're now in our fifth or sixth year traveling, something like that.
Okay. Now,
So, yeah.
Did you start traveling with the goal of conquering debt, or was it simply to find a job, or?
So the goal was twofold. It was, we knew we would make more money, but we didn't back then. There's no real information out there about travelers. I mean, I think there's only like one other website. Hobo Health was, I think, the only site at the time. So we knew we'd make more, but we didn't know what that would look like. But we really just wanted to kind of see new places and explore. And, like I said, we're a little bit fed up with our hometown at the time. So we're like, well, maybe we'll find another place that is perfect for us. And, we still, 5 years later, want to go back to Durango. I mean, we just loved it there. But, we just realized like, okay, there's another way to do this. There's another way to get out of this debt and proceed. So we actually, while we're on our first contract, here in California, we're back in California now. We took the Dave Ramsey financial peace course. We just happened to, a family member got it for us for Christmas, and we took it. And that's all about getting out of debt and as quick as you can. And we were already like of that mindset, but this sort of really lit a fire under us. And we just started. We were already living in a tiny apartment on not much income, so we just kept that same lifestyle as best we could. In these different locations, and we're able to just hammer away at the loans. And I think it was like 2 or 3 years after traveling, we were pretty much grad school debt free.
Wow! So within 2 years, you conquered.
We were doing
over
like
$200,000 in loans.
Yeah, it was like almost 70 or 80 grand a year is what we were averaging for a few years of paying off. But we're also traveling together. We can split a place, so there's not every traveler can do this because we're a traveling team. So there's that benefit. And we're, a lot of the stuff that we do lifestyle wise, we're huge outdoors people. all the photos on our website are basically of like scenery, most of them. And it's just because our favorite things to do are hike and bike, and we're big trail runners, and that's all free. That's not on purpose. It just happens to be what we love to do. But we can do this amazing things and have a blast in all these different locations. And for us, there's no extra cost. So our lifestyle right there, the base level, is pretty affordable.
Mm-hmm. So just to summarize, within 2 years, you
I
conquered
would say
over two
three.
or about
I would
3
say
years.
three.
Okay, so
Yeah,
in about
yeah.
3 years, you conquered over $200,000 in student loans. You were averaging about $80,000 in take home. Do you have any specific tips that you could share people? Because I think people hear all the time, "Oh,
Mhm.
with traveling, you can conquer debt," and so it's
Mhm.
really nice to hear from people that are actually debt free and that the
Mhm.
story has actually come true for them, sort of the exact steps that you used to get to that point.
Yeah, so we kind of did the whole debt snowball approach. So unlike the Dave Ramsey, I don't know if most of your listeners are familiar with him, but he basically says take the smallest debt and pay that one off more rapidly than the others, and then you snowball that to the next and take that same dollar amount onto the next, onto the next. We did the same thing, only applied it to the highest interest rate.
Mm-hmm.
So it's the same thing. We're already pretty motivated. He uses that technique mainly for like a easier motivation. Um, because it's much nicer to see your number of debts to go from 10 down to 9, 8, 7. Whereas if you attack the highest interest rate, I mean, my gosh, one of my grad school loans was like, I think when I was in school, it was like almost 8%, 7.8 or 8%. But it was like thousands and thousands of dollars, whereas I had an undergrad loan at like 2% that we could have paid off in 2 paychecks,
Mm-hmm.
but we stayed with that one because it made more financial sense for us to go at the higher interest rate.
No, I concur.
So,
The interest rates are so high, and this is what I really try to advocate to, especially new graduates coming out, that you
mhm,
have to have a plan for your loans because your interest rates coming out are between 6 to 8%.
yeah,
That accumulates so quickly. I mean, that's if you had a
so
hundred
fast.
thousand dollar loan, that's between $6 to $8,000, if not
Hmm.
more, of just interest.
Yeah.
And so you really have to take that approach. I agree
Hmm.
100% with trying to pay off the highest interest rate instead of making yourself feel good. Pay off that highest interest rate
Hmm.
first and then trickle down. And then I know
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
also talked a little bit about lifestyle that, try to live reasonably, even though as a traveler, you are making excellent money and
Yeah.
almost maybe
Oh yeah.
potentially 2 times more than a standard position. Save
Yeah.
that. If your goal is to get debt free, then use that extra earnings and filter it all to the loans to
Oh yeah.
help. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. That's pretty much yeah, that's basically what we did. And, we were by no means living like lame lifestyles. I mean, in Alaska, we did all the flight seeing, and we went skiing. We did all these like that people think are like high dollar things, but when generally your everyday base cost is so low. I mean, for us, once we own the gear, we have it forever. So,
Hmm.
and we before we started really hammering out our loans, we made those decisions to buy the gear, which probably wasn't the wisest financially, but we already had the stuff, so
Yeah.
might as well just use it.
Well,
So
I mean, you don't want to sacrifice your lifestyle either. You have to
yeah,
be emotionally healthy as well as financially healthy.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
exactly, exactly.
Well, and I
But
think that's, the point I want to drive home to a lot of people too is just your higher earnings can
mm,
really enable financial freedom. That's why
mhm.
I'm such a huge advocate of traveling. I know that's why you're,
Yeah,
helping so many people with mentorship too in traveling. I think is because we've realized that just earning almost like a six-figure salary or
or
80,000
more.
versus the standard pay or more. I mean,
I mean,
many travelers after taxes can earn six
mhm.
figures, depending on your experience and where you're working and your
Oh yeah,
setting. And so
yeah.
just the high earnings, like to get debt free in traveling doesn't take rocket science. It's actually
Mm-mm.
super easy. You just have to be financially conscious, be
Mhm.
smart with where you live and those fixed costs and have lower
Yep.
fixed costs
Mhm.
and then have the higher earnings. I really
Yeah.
think that it's all about your income level. If you can
Mhm.
really have that higher income level, you can achieve your
Oh
dream.
yeah, yeah. And one of the things is, you know, the phrase the hedonistic adaptation. Have you heard that phrase before?
No.
So basically, it's a fancy way of saying like lifestyle expansion. So the more money you make, the more money you spend. And the research
Mm.
supports that. totally. But what happens is like you end up like making a little bit more money. So now you go to a little bit nicer restaurant, and then maybe you buy a little bit nicer clothes, and you know, flash forward a couple of years, and all of a sudden you've got this super expensive lifestyle, and you don't know how you got there.
Mhm.
And so part of it is just kind of keeping this like humble, like, okay, this is what we do, this is what we need, sort of perspective. I really like the phrase that Dave Ramsey used, is that every dollar has a job. And so if before the money even comes in, you've already mentally set it aside, it makes it so much easier that when the money comes in, you're not going to go want to spend it,
Yeah.
because already beforehand you've prepared, right? You've given it a designation and a destination, and that helps so much for us. And we automated everything that we possibly could. We automated as much as we could without, I guess, because I think my wife worked out some way that if we paid them off, and we paid our loans at the base every month, and then we added on top of that in a separate payment, it was more advantageous than just paying more with the regular payment.
Okay.
I don't remember. I don't. She handles the paying of the bills. So, um, but yeah, just having that goal for every dollar was super helpful, because then you get this huge paycheck that comes in, and you've got this extra money, and you're already like, oh, okay, so I'm going to put that towards,
Yeah.
that extra is going to go towards our loans every month. And I mean, some months we are able to put 8 to 10 grand between the two of us on loans, and it's just like, holy cow, and we're still able to do all this cool stuff. I mean,
Yeah. I mean, I think that's
it's
the nice
pretty
thing
great.
about traveling is you don't have to sacrifice your lifestyle because you're earning more. You can pay off your loans and
Hmm.
also have an amazing lifestyle, which is
Oh yeah.
great because it's the
Oh yeah.
reverse for a lot of permanent jobs. Permanent jobs, you're only taking home maybe 1,500 a month, maybe 2,000 a month. It's really variable, so don't quote me on anything there. But it's that amount. Once you like, I did a calculation, and say someone has a permanent position as a PT, on average that's like 70,000 after cost of living,
Hmm.
after rent, food, insurance, car, phone, TV, utilities, everything. I did it, and I did it actually pretty reasonable, and student loan payments on $100,000 loan. You ended up only saving like $500. Like your
Oh
lifetime
yeah.
savings over the whole year is like nothing.
Oh my
You're not
gosh.
saving anything. And that's
Yeah.
why, I think you have to find creative ways to either save money or make
Oh
more
yeah.
money.
Oh yeah. I mean, I remember, that it was what my first I was at the job for like a year and a half at my first job, and just making the base. Well, I was paying a little bit more than the base on student loans, at my perm job, and then trying to save for her engagement ring, which was not. I mean, it is a by no means a fancy ring. I mean, it took me 9 months to save for this stupid thing.
Mm.
I mean, it took stinking forever. I mean, I felt like I can't propose to this girl until I've got the ring in my hands, and it's like month after month is going by. It's like, I don't have the money yet.
Yeah.
Keep saving. So yeah, I didn't even think about how little, when it's all said and done, how little you have left over for that. It's
Mhm.
been it's been a while since we've been in that situation. So
Now, I know, Stephen, that you are like an expert negotiator, and that's your like amazing tactic to really also help become debt
hmm
free faster with traveling is negotiating each contract. Can
hmm
you share a little insider tip or some secrets to helping travelers and just the general population with contract or job negotiation?
yeah. So I'd say there's probably two main tips that I want people to understand, because it's really, these are the two biggest downfalls that people kind of get into. Is one, they don't understand what they're actually worth. So most therapists, we don't, as PTs in general, we hate talking about money. So it's one of the reasons I think this podcast is fantastic, is because finally we're talking about money. Yeah, we're talking about it more in the personal sense and not necessarily like the business sense of either growing a business, but um, we just don't like it. I mean, that's how we're as an industry, how we're in this spot with lower and lower
Yeah.
reimbursement, is because we're letting insurance companies push us around. Now, I'm not a clinic owner, so take that with a grain of salt. But we don't like it. But we need to understand what you can bring to the table and what your value is. And as a therapist, as a traveler, or a perm person, a lot of times we don't actually know how valuable we are, or we don't have that maybe that number set in our head. So the
Mhm.
other thing is, know you're valuable, kind of stick by that, and have a walk away number. Because I know for us, we took, I've done a lot of negotiations at this point. I think we're on like 12 or so different like personal contract negotiations, and some have gone great and some have gone just horrendously. And one of the ones that went horrendously, we were trying to get back to our town in Durango, and we made it very, very clear to the people that we were desperate to get there. And so they just hammered us. We didn't have a walkaway number. And so we took $10,000 a year. It was going to be a perm job, $10,000 a year less than what we had wanted to make each.
Mm-hmm.
And then my wife, who has the exact same everything as I do, got offered $1 an hour less than I did, which is just absurd to me. And we took it. We were only there a few months. We didn't
Mm-hmm.
last very long, but we didn't know what we were valuable. We didn't know what we could bring to the table, and we didn't have a walkaway number that we could really stick to, and that was realistic.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say those are probably the two biggest. And then as far as travelers go, the one specific thing is know that there's always a little bit of wiggle room. You're not going to get these massive raises, and you're not going to just walk away making bank every single time. Some contracts are presented where there's only a little bit of wiggle room for the company to possibly give you more money than what they initially offer. And then others, there's a lot more. So I've had anything from, sometimes $25 a week after tax is all they can budge. And then literally we've had some that were hundreds. But you still have to try. And that's
Yes.
another thing that because we don't like to talk about money, most of the time we don't even ask.
Yes, it's all
So
about just that one ask. Exactly. You just
yeah,
that I think that's like the biggest tip ever is
yeah,
literally just ask. And ask
yeah.
every single time. Every single time
Every
you have
time
a new job, every single time you have a new contract.
extend.
Yes.
Oh, you have to ask if you extend, because
Yeah.
the recruiter doesn't have to do any work. They have done the work. You're there. All they have to do is make another PDF, have you sign it, and you're done. Like, there's no work for them.
Exactly.
So they don't need that extra cost to go into their labor. Like, you should be able to get something else when you extend, for sure. For sure.
Exactly. I agree with that. And I think, bringing up the fact that you talk about knowing your worth, especially as a traveler, if you extend, use those argument points that Stephen brought up that
Mm-hmm.
that the recruiter literally has to do no work, that you are already there, so you don't have any relocation costs that you have to do again, no
Yep.
license reimbursement
Yep.
costs again. There are so many things, no orientation or training
Yep.
costs. So
Yep.
all of that, you by extending are saving the facility thousands of dollars,
Tons.
because
Tons.
especially as a traveler, your bill rate is so
Mm-hmm.
high that it's easily thousands of dollars. So for you asking for maybe $1 more an hour, and I think that's the other point too, I think is just, I think people don't know how much money $1 an hour more is.
Yeah.
But that is, I believe it's 2,000 more dollars a year.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yep.
so that is, I'm not a mathematician, but that's a lot, like 2,000
Yeah.
more dollars. I mean, that
Yeah.
is,
Well, especially if you get it
yeah.
after tax as a
Yes.
traveler.
Yeah.
If you negotiate it into being, I want $1 an hour more after tax, like, that's tangible money in your pocket. Whereas, if you're in a perm job, $1 an hour isn't anything to just, stick your nose up at, but it's a little bit more lucrative as a traveler.
Yeah, definitely. Everything counts. I mean, yeah, $1 an hour, not that much, but when you think about it over the long run, if you did $1 an hour more every contract and you had 4
Mm-hmm.
contracts, that is $2,000 more times 4. That's $8,000 more dollars a year that you made. If you worked several years as a traveler, say you worked 3 years as a traveler, $8,000 times 3 is $24,000 that you are missing out on if you don't negotiate every single contract. So,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm not guaranteeing you're making that, but I'm just using the numbers to help
Yeah.
illustrate how important negotiation and what Stephen's saying is. It's very
Oh
important.
yeah. Oh yeah, for
Yeah.
sure.
So I know that you are a traveling couple, and so
Mm-hmm.
do you have any tips for traveling together as a couple, maybe finding contracts together or finding housing together?
Well, the housing part's, I think, easier, because you can just split housing, and as far as trying to find jobs, it is a little bit more of a challenge because we're both PTs. So if we're different professions, opposite professions, have an easier time just because you're not both vying for the same job. So a lot of times we have to be careful that we're not getting put in for the same jobs, because we don't want to compete against each other if we don't have to. And then we have to go to like medium or larger towns. So that's kind of a bummer. So there's a few spots that we've been loving. We would love to take contracts at, but they have one job and that's it. And most likely they're not going to have two travel jobs at the same time.
Yeah.
So that's sort of the reality of the situation as both physical therapists. If it was a PT/OT team or a PT nursing team, I don't know if that would be the case. I don't think it would be quite as difficult, but each profession kind of has their own, the demand waxes and wanes,
Mhm.
quite a bit. So, there's a couple of professions right now that aren't super hot as travelers, and then others that are, still great. I mean, nursing's gonna be great for the foreseeable future, but yeah. So those would be my two things.
Okay. Okay. Now, do you think it is easier or harder to travel as a couple? I've always wondered this because I traveled by myself, but I
Yeah.
hear everyone talk about traveling as a couple. So I'm always curious.
Yeah. Well, to be honest, I don't know the opposite. But I mean, we're a married couple, so it's really great to have, like, your best friend there wherever you're at. We're working home health. We do a lot of home health jobs, and that's another big reason we do it is, it's the highest paying of the travel areas. That's one of the reasons, and then the other one is the lifestyle. So
Mhm.
you're speaking, you're going to be with patients like 6 to 7 hours a day, maybe, like, away from the house. You're still going to put in your 8 hours because the paperwork's pretty miserable, but the benefit is you're at home. So, like, right now we've got a 10-month old, and so we are away from the house for about 6 hours a day. We have childcare comes, have childcare come, and then we come back and it's baby time until she goes to bed at like 7ish, and then we start our documentation. So, you know, it's kind of nice that we can set work aside during her waking hours and to really take advantage of that, because otherwise, if we were working at clinics, we'd be stuck at work until 5, 6,
Mhm.
6:30. I mean, when depending on your schedule, maybe even at her bedtime. When I was working a sniff job before this, when this is the first contract that both of us have been traveling on. The last one I took, and I was working a sniff job, and I'd come home and I'd see her for half an hour before bed, and that was it. So I'd see her in the morning when she's basically feeding. All she wants to do is feed in the morning, and then I'd be gone all day, and I'd see her half an hour before bed. And I couldn't imagine both of us doing that. So
Yeah.
that's why we're doing the home health thing. But one of the benefits of being a travel team is you have a little bit of community where you're at. So that's been the biggest struggle that we've found as travelers, and in talking with a lot of the people, a lot of our readers, and a lot of our buddies, finding that group, that community can be a challenge if you're moving around
Yeah.
super frequently, and it's part of the reason we try and take, if we can, we try and take a little bit longer contracts. Another little negotiation tip for your travelers is, if you go in, say, in 3 months, and then, a little up the ante would be like, well, can you pay me a couple dollars an hour more if I extend for 4 months, 5 months, 6 months, whatever it is? And they're going to jump at it, almost every time. So yeah, I mean, so we take longer contracts partly because you can get a little bit more upfront, but then, and you don't have to wait to the extension to get that money. Does that make sense? So that you can,
Yes.
like, front load it a little bit, so you get 3 more months of that higher pay. But then also you're there longer to meet people. Um, so yeah, I mean, that would be, I would say, is the best benefit, is because you have at least a friend
Yeah.
here with
No,
you.
I think there's pros and cons with traveling, and it is great in so many aspects, but I think the one negative is that it can be lonely and that you do have to go contract to contract, and that can get a little stressful for people. So the other nice thing about really trying to emphasize extensions, really continue at one facility, and not only can you negotiate higher rates, but you're actually saving money by not
Mhm.
having to move to the next location again and again and again.
Oh yeah.
You can
Oh yeah.
re-sign your contract several times and then just keep staying at the same apartment, so you're not
Hmm.
having to do the housing costs or all of those different, and it even is less stressful too. So not only are you saving money, not only are you making more money, but also it's less stressful.
Oh yeah, for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
Now, the other question I get asked all the time, and probably you do too, is new graduates. What is your
Uh,
best advice with new graduates? What's your thoughts on new graduates traveling?
so, it's the classic PT school. It depends.
Yeah.
I think it depends on your personality, your skill set, your confidence. I think for me, I probably could have traveled right off the bat. I was pretty confident. I lucked out and had some amazing mentors um, before physical therapy school, in physical therapy school, kind of prepared me, you know, for the rigors of professional life. But there's a lot who don't have that, and they need some mentorship. They need someone to kind of, um, you know, take them under their wing and guide them along a little bit. Yeah, it's possible to get that as a traveler, but it's tricky, to be honest. It's tricky to get that, the mentorship that certain people might need.
Hmm.
So, I don't have a great answer. Like I said, it really does depend. I mean, I have a lot of new grads that talk to me about traveling, and if they're real go-getters and they're confident in their skills and they're willing to learn um, along the way, then yeah, go for it. But some of these travel jobs are single clinician clinics out in the middle of nowhere, and you're running the whole show. And I, I'd be nervous doing that now if I'm front office and clinical staff all in one. Like, there's some travel jobs like that. Like, that's terrifying. And I've been doing this, 7 years, and I know my orthopedics as well as anybody, and I'd be nervous doing that.
Yeah. I
So,
think I think the biggest thing I emphasize for new graduates is picking the right assignment.
mhm,
I think you're exactly right. You have to have confidence. What I tell people is that if you feel confident with your skills, if maybe you worked before in another job and you have those interpersonal communication skills and those organization and time
mhm,
management, and you're just sort of like a go-getter, and you have chutzpah, that's
yeah, yeah,
then you can definitely travel. But the other aspect isn't just your personality, but it's also your relationship with the recruiter.
mhm,
Having a good recruiter that is going to make sure that you don't get placed into those positions where you are pushed ethically, and where you don't have that guidance and mentorship. So you want to have a good recruiter that's going to lead you to those right assignments,
mhm,
and for you to really choose assignments that you're comfortable with. So if you
mhm,
interview with a position like Steven's talking about, where you're going to be front office and back office, just don't take that assignment. Even if it pays you all the money in the world, you're not
yeah,
that's not going to reflect well on
yep,
traveling. And not
yeah,
all assignments are like that. There are some like that, but that's why Steven and I are doing this, to teach you the tactics to make sure that you have
mhm,
a successful career in traveling. Yeah, good
mhm,
point, Steven.
yeah.
So back to being debt free. What does it feel like to be debt free? Like, can you emotionally describe that feeling for me?
Well, the biggest thing was, we've been able to we took 8 weeks off to have our baby. 4 weeks before, 4 weeks after. I mean, that was just, how else could you do that? I mean, we just took 8 weeks off, and we were able to fully fund our lifestyle, and we just were able to sock away so much more money in preparation for it. Prior to that, a year or two prior to that, my wife took, or we both took 6 weeks off. She hiked the John Muir Trail. I hung out with some buddies in town, and it was just, you know, it, I don't know any other profession where you could do that, or how you would do it if you had, this $500,000, $1,500, a month expense hanging over your head every single month. I mean, we had no real expenses. We didn't have a car debt at the time, and um, or anything like that. So
Well, now
yeah,
you
I mean,
can actually afford to have a family, right? And
yeah,
start building up savings to have a house, to have a
yep,
car, and all
oh
those
yeah, oh
different
yeah,
things.
yeah. It's exciting. I mean, and the speed that and because we were able to save for a down payment for a house, because I was saying our hometown is so expensive, and um, it's shocking how quickly you can stash that little bit of extra away once you don't have all these different places where that money has to go. So we were
Mhm.
able to save it for down payment. We're able to just sit on it, and if something opens up that we want, then we can immediately move. And it's it's been really freeing. So it's great.
So speaking of that, I know that this freedom has enabled you now to become an entrepreneur. Can you
Hmm.
describe that a little bit for me?
Well, so I have a patented exercise device that I'm in the process of getting, manufactured and all that kind of stuff. It's early on. The patent actually came through about a year. It came through about a year earlier than I was planning. So, um, yeah, so that's something we're going to be, exploring a little bit and trying to get that, out to market. Um, and that's been super. It's been a fun process. It's been a really great learning experience. And oh, by the way, patents aren't cheap. So paying for a patent attorney, the $5,000 that we had to pay our patent attorney, or probably even more than that, it's trickled over the years. So it's not as intimidating up front. But yeah, I mean, that money is a lot easier to come up with when you don't have all the student loans and things like that anymore. So it's freed me up to kind of explore that. We're going to explore the option of getting it manufactured and marketed. And then also, we have our website and that sort of entrepreneurial thing, there a little bit as well. So
Yeah, I think it's
yeah.
so fun. I think once, like, sort of, I feel the same thing. Like, I felt so trapped by my student loans, and I felt
Yeah.
like everything I had to do was so focused on that, and I think it was really tough. And I think that sort of stems off some of the burnout that people feel. Also, is the fact that they feel like they can't pursue
Mhm.
other options and pursue other things that inspire them, and so by becoming more
Yeah.
financially free, you feel like you can pursue the things that are maybe your secret passions or your new passions
Oh yeah.
as you grow up. So, well, I look
Yeah.
forward to, we'll have you back on again, definitely, and you can talk about
Yeah.
patents. I think that that's so neat. We'll have you on to talk about patents
Okay.
and the device
Sounds
you're
good.
creating and everything like that. And so, I know you also have a course. Do you want to share like an inside
Yes.
peek a little bit at your course?
Yeah. Yeah, so I'm gonna hopefully roll out by the time this goes live. Hopefully, the course we roll out right now we're calling it elite level, and so the whole point is taking clinicians from either new grad or kind of at just like sort of like the general clinician level, and how to level up, how to get your skills up to the higher level, how to get paid at a higher level, because a lot of people don't know how to negotiate contracts, but kind of negotiate even their careers. It's shocking how many people don't have plans for their careers further than just the next 6 months. And so, through this course and through a lot of the stuff that we're going to be teaching, we're hoping to people really drive your clinical skills up, but then also, be able to get paid what you're worth. I mean, because of some of the things that we've used in this course and what we're taking is from our own experience. When we were working in Alaska, I was able to negotiate $30,000 a year more because I was able to see what they're offering. And then I was like, well, actually I can do X, Y, and Z. And, basically I was able to use the same tactics that we're going to be talking about in this course to negotiate I was shocked it actually worked, but, and we've been able to replicate it ever since. So, basically just enabling clinicians to be able to kind of do that and take charge again. So.
Well, it sounds like I'm going to take that course. I want to make $30,000 more.
Yeah, yeah, but we're gonna call it two modules. One will be traveler specific, and then one will be perm, more traditional. We'll go into more like asking for raises and things like that with the perm job as well. So there'll be some overlap in the coursework. So I wouldn't recommend people taking both, to be honest. There's gonna be, as far as the advanced negotiating kind of tactics, they're gonna be pretty similar for the two. So.
Okay, great. I'll have the
Yeah,
links to everything for that in the show notes. And speaking of links, where can people contact you, Stephen, if they want to learn more about
yeah.
traveling or negotiations and anything else?
Yeah, our website's ptadventures.com, or you can shoot me an email at rptadventures@gmail.com. I'm, Facebook, we're there, but with our baby, I'm not on very much anymore. So you're best off going through the email or the website.
Okay, great. Well, thank you so much for sharing amazing tips on traveling, on negotiation tactics, and on just becoming debt free. I hope people have learned a lot from this episode, and we'll be having you back on soon, Stephen. Thank you so
Great.
much.
Thank you very much.
So I am excited to announce that while we were waiting for this podcast to launch, Stephen and his wife actually did launch their course. on negotiations, interviewing, resume creation, and basically how to get paid more as a physical therapist. Their course is called Elite Level, the Therapist's Guide to Career and Income Growth. You can find this course at going to ptadventures.thinkific.com/course/elite level. And just for podcast listeners, if you're interested in making more and learning what Stephen has to say, you get a special 20% coupon if you plug in the code DFPT20. All this, if that's a lot, is going to be on my website, so you can just go to debtfreept.com/podcast and find Stephen's episode to get all the links directly to his new course. I've actually taken it, and it's a really great comprehensive course that walks you through everything that basically school should have taught us. It walks you through how to create a resume, how to interview, how to negotiate, and really how to create this profile that you're going to have for the rest of your life so that you always earn more or that you're always chosen in the jobs that you're trying to apply for. So I highly suggest that course. Stephen did an excellent job. I really applaud him for that. And once again, you can just check out all the links to that at debtfreept.com/podcast, and you'll find the links. And his code is DFPT20 for that 20% off. Thank you guys, and I'll see you in the next podcast.